to one-offs. So from the drop-down menu that I choose from, I was like, holy shit, there was like 60 things to choose from, and we were like, this would not be feasible for us to actually to do. So,
but with the pitch session thing, that one doesn't need a second email to fire, because they just need that first email that has the link to the material submission form. So it's not as big of a disaster as we thought it might be. So like the pitch session ones, because all they need is that first email that says submit your material here, blah, blah, blah. The same email that everybody gets. They don't really need that second email to fire. But what we will have to be careful of is whenever we are putting a class up again, that we just update that same product and don't duplicate it or make a new one, because then it won't be connected anymore to fire. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so part of this is sort of leveraging the tech the best we can, but also sort of changing the processes internally, right? So you guys are not creating a bigger mess, for yourselves. So I think part of this, so I think the first question is, how many of these are actual one-offs versus just like new versions of the same product, right? Like, are this the same product, but just there's different dates, right? Or are you guys literally launching a new type of product and then killing it, launching a new type of product and killing it? Like, what's that actual cycle?
It's the same product. It's
well, it just, it really depends. That's the whole thing, is we just have so many different things going on that's why it's like so confusing. But I think that the major one that I want to get set up automated is when people order webinars from the library, because that product will never change. It's done. But when it's a live webinar, so here's the process for the webinars. So I put it up and it's $45 for the live webinar, and it's up in the webinars collection, and people can register for it there. Once the webinar has happened, I take the date off of that listing, change the price to $34, and move it to the library collection. So it's still the same product, but the email that would fire when it's still live is the link to join the session. And the email that would fire once it's in the library is a link to the recording.
Sure. Okay. So all recordings should be automated, right?
Yes, because especially the ones that are there now, it's just a matter of me figuring out, because I will have to disconnect the link one after the live webinar has happened and put up the recording one and link it to the recording one instead. Does that make sense?
So yes, that makes sense. Well, we had set up the process last time we originally started talking about this. The goal was, and the primary focus was going to be on these, I think it was more like and forgive me if I'm using the wrong terminology, but it was like these courses, right? Where you're
the
sending them
classes
like a syllabi.
Yes.
Right? So the product would always be the same, right? But the syllabus would change. And then the syllabus would then have the links to the actual live.
Yeah, for the classes, I'm not that worried about it, because for those, we do tend to just update the old listing. And then what we would do is just update the PDF that's linked in the confirmation in the second email that fires.
Right.
So I'm not that worried about that one. It's also a matter of telling Joey that he can not make products anymore. Because he will just duplicate things. He won't know anything about what it's connected to or confirmation. So it's like he's going to have to just ask me to do it. But that's the other, because he'll just post stuff up and then all of a sudden tax is getting charged on shit. And then all of a sudden shipping's turned on. And I'm like, Joey.
Yeah. I think that, so it sounds like the way to do it is, kind of systematically work through these one by one to set them up, and then maintain each product and don't change it, right? Just update like the title and update the details.
Is there a way to customize the URL of each product? Because the problem is that it'll be like screenwriting intensive January, but it's really screenwriting intensive June. It's just that the original product we made was the January month, but we've updated it, but the URL still says January.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to update the URL.
Okay.
So meaning like you don't want the URL to say January when you create it.
Yeah, like can it just say screenwriting intensive done and like not have the month on it and shit? Like, but I haven't found a way to like customize the URLs for anything. So that's why sometimes we have to make a new product so that it updates what's in the URL because people get confused. They're like, why does the URL say January, but the page says June?
Yeah, it's really straightforward in Shopify. I can change it. So just in the product details, you can just
because then it's like we would just have it would be like 1 hour pilot class done, not starts XYZ date, none of that shit. It would just be 1 hour pilot class, and the only thing so URL would never change. All we would do is update the information in the listing.
Yep, 100%.
Because that's been a big problem is just not knowing how to customize the URLs. So then we do end up making a new product and deleting the old one, and then updating some or duplicating others. But if I could just customize the URL, that would make it so much easier.
Yep. Yeah. Good news. These are really small tech problems. You guys, these are small things. So this is good.
Sweet.
All right. Customize URLs. So let's kind of keep working through this. So if we can keep products the same without having to duplicate, and you can make the URLs whatever you want. You guys just update the details and the titling of the products. That allows us to maintain a linkage right on the back end to a MailChimp flow or to a MailChimp automation that's going to fire a second email after those products, right? If that exists that way, Jorge, is that doable? Does that make your life easier, or is this too many of these to put together?
No, that sounds. I think that can work.
Yeah, I think if we can, the whole customizing the URL thing, which means that we don't have a billion products that are the same thing, but we just made a new one so that the URL would be different or so that the URL would update to the current month, then it's like, that makes it a lot easier because then we just tell Joe we don't make new products, just update the last one. And then he could still post stuff. I just don't want him posting from scratch.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. Okay. So I think the process still works then, right? So I think the trick here is we just got to get you, when you guys are moving over to Shopify, let's just make sure you guys understand kind of how to maintain that single product without having to duplicate it.
Yeah, and also go through and scrub all the old products and stuff that that we're not going to repeat.
Ditch the old stuff.
Yeah, I've been through and deleted a bunch of shit a couple weeks ago, but we just need to go through and delete more and more and just delete the pitch sessions too after they're done, because that's what gets so cluttered because there's so many pitch sessions. And then I think it was even wanting to fire it wanted you to select it for different variants too. And we've got 12 variants on each open pitch session. So it's even trying to find the product you're looking for.
It's just too hard. Yeah. Okay. That makes total sense. Okay. Then, so actually explain to me the open pitch sessions. Do you have to create can the open pitch sessions just be a single product also that gets updated? How come?
Because it's a different exec every time. Different preferences, different everything. Yeah. Different times available. Okay. It's a completely different thing.
That's fine. All right. But at least we're limiting your variables.
But like I said, the pitch session ones though, those don't need a second firing. Those just need.
So those don't even matter.
They just need the Shopify one that has the submit your material here button.
Okay.
So that at least makes that easier.
Okay.
And that's the vast majority of registrations. So I guess the first one, Jorge, that we should work on is probably doing the webinars that are in the library. First of all, customizing those URLs because those URLs have the date in it that they happened and shit, because it just takes whatever the title of the product was to make the URL. So I think customizing those URLs first and then to the products, and then doing the second email that fires with the link to the recording and the password to it so that I don't have to manually do that every time.
Okay.
And then that's a good way to test it out when people are ordering from the webinar library. Then we can move on to putting the syllabuses up for the classes and whatnot. And then the live webinar one, that'll be the next experiment too. But with the library, there's literally 85 that we'll have to do. So that one's going to be a big job.
I'm trying to replicate the sort of thing that I was experiencing last time real quick here. But you guys can go ahead and continue. I just want to...
No, I'm just taking notes here. so I can make sure we're outlining how we want to tackle this in sort of baby steps. So I think here what we're going to do first is let's kind of go back. Let's start where we started, right? Let's look at the post-purchase flows, right? And this is something that even when we start moving over to the new theme, we can still be working on this stuff in the back end because the back end isn't going to change. It's just the front end of the site that's going to change. So you kind of going through and deleting old products and maintaining the same product for each new sort of iteration of that product and making sure the URL doesn't change, that can start today, right?
Okay.
That's not going to affect anything with moving over to Shopify. So I think we can kind of get this moving. And so the first piece here is just delete all the old product. And the third step, start setting up that automated flow that Jorge had sent you instructions on for all the library webinars first. And then let's just do that. And let's kind of get started on that process. And then that at least gets us going. And then we can see how that goes. If we need to adjust, we can. But then we can move on to classes.
And then I've been using Locksmith to protect the webinar library, the recordings. I don't know if you have a better one or whatever. I've just been using Locksmith, but the way that I was doing it was that I had to put their email address in as allowed, and they'd have to be logged in, blah, blah, blah. So I have to go change all the locks to be just a password lock, like gives the passcode, blah, 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 instead of the email lock that I had on before. But, I mean, that's just a lock thing. If that's the best way to do it, I don't know. I was just like,
so
I need to lock this thing.
Each individual email when somebody buys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I was a pain in the ass.
I'm looking for it right now. So, okay.
So like, here, do you want me to show you how I do it?
Yeah, show me how you do it. I'm just sort of thinking there's some alternatives.
So there is, why isn't this taking me to, is it this one? Is this, no. Give me my desktop. What's wrong with you? Well, oh, there it is. Okay. So this is Locksmith. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I've got, about 80 locks. So like for the intensive collection, the network collection, and then the rest of these are just the webinar recording pages. So like I've embedded the YouTube on these pages so that the idea was that they didn't just get a YouTube link and then they could send it around to like everybody and their mother, that I wanted it to be a protected page on the website so that they have to be logged in or they have to give a passcode or a passcode that we can change, every now and again or whatever. But the way that I have all these set up is that when when somebody orders it, I come in and I paste their email address in and save it. And then they have to sign in with that email address in order to view the page. But you can do keys that are just like gives the passcode. So I'll just have to go change these to passcodes and email the people who had it this way and say, hey, if you're accessing this again, now it's just with this passcode. You don't have to log in.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That's way more automated.
Yeah.
I would do that. Yeah. The having to submit an email every time is going to kill you. That's just.
Oh, I know. That's why I was like, I'd love to be able to automate the webinar recordings because it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Just set up as a passcode.
Okay. So then that's what I'm saying is I just have to go and change all of these from the is signed in thing to a passcode thing, but that's not that big of a deal.
Okay. Just making note of that too. Okay. Okay. That's fine. So Jorge, you said you were running into another snag. Do you remember what it was? The automation.
I'm still trying to get back there, but I think I'm close to figuring it out again, but not quite just yet. Okay.
It's like I've almost got it. So I guess while he's doing that, maybe let's talk about the Spently thing.
Yeah, let's talk about Spently.
So
run me through it again.
The problem is that they couldn't just downgrade us back to the free version where it was only firing the order confirmation email because they changed their whole whatever, and they like that plan doesn't even exist anymore, and like they just have no way to put us back on that. So it's kind of like we either stick with the paid plan, which we actually got charged for today, $200 for it, for the month, or we kind of have to look for something else to customize our order confirmation. But the problem is that without having the plan of what we were going to do or how we were going to customize a new order confirmation order, I couldn't cancel Spently because we have so many orders going out and we need that material submission button in it. And I can't customize it any other way by myself. That's why I used an app to do it originally. So, but that's the whole thing. And it's like, and I was talking to the co-founder on the phone the other day, like explaining to him about how the way they track ROI doesn't really work for us because all of our customers are repeat clients. And then I heard like the light bulb going off in his head for why we didn't think the way they track the ROI told us that we were making money from Spently. He started to understand what I meant, that all of our clients buy again anyway. I need to know what, when an action by Spently actually drove an additional sale. He was like, oh, because we have a very different business from a lot of businesses that they power. But he was also like, they do like 17 different like emails and whatnot. But I was just like, I just thought it would be easier if you talked to him for 10 minutes to see if what they, because you didn't seem not familiar with what they do, but to see if what they do actually works for what we want to try to do here, because we do like the win back campaigns they do where it's auto generates discount codes and automatically emails people that haven't bought something in 6 months with a discount code, and it says like, we've missed you. Like, we like the auto generated discount codes that show up in the confirmation email. Well, the one that, but now we just reverted back to the original that it doesn't happen anymore because it's the whole Spently thing. We were just trying to figure it all out. But there's certain things
explain to me one more time, because I think we talked about this last time. I didn't realize that there is, so what goes into the confirmation email that you're using Spently for beyond just a discount code? What are you putting in?
We customized everything about it. That the link to the material submission form, like if you signed up for this, click here to submit your material. If you signed up for anything else, further instructions will be coming by email. Like, don't have your script put down just because of a few errors. Check out proofreading. You guys should all be having your shit proofread. Like, we customize the confirmation. The main thing in the confirmation that has to be there is if you booked an open pitch session or a consult, blah, 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 click here to submit your material. That is almost every registration. They have to go there next. So that's why we couldn't just revert back to the default Shopify one. That button has to be there. Otherwise, it's a fucking disaster.
Got it. Okay. So there's a couple ways to do it, right? You can, like, what Spently is doing is not, they're customizing that confirmation order, right? All of that you could do just with a flow in MailChimp if you wanted to, right? So just like we're firing our second email, that's got links to the syllabus, right? You could also, in that second email, you could also have links to where do you, your.
But that's just it. That's what we were saying. Open pitch is the one that's a huge pain in the ass to do with a flow in MailChimp. That needs to be just the standard confirmation email that fires should be the one that fires for open pitch. And that goes to everybody. But then it also says, but if you booked a class, blah, 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 there will be a second email fired. But that first email that gets fired has to have the link to the material submission form in it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Now I've
That's why I couldn't just cancel Spently. Like, I'm kind of beholden to them until we fucking figure out, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I wanted you to sort of talk to him, because they do a lot of different stuff. Because he was saying that, like, MailChimp is great for like email campaigns, but we do this, like for this, we do this on top of that. And like Klaviyo is great for customizing your order confirmation, but we also do this. Like, he was basically saying they incorporate the best of what everybody is doing into like one app that does it. But I'm like, I don't fucking understand any of this shit. Which is why I was like, can you talk to him for 10 minutes and see if this is useful or not? Like, I don't know.
Can you email intro me to him?
Yeah.
Just I'll have him on tomorrow, Friday.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to talk to him anyway because I'd like to learn more about what they do.
Yeah, they're really responsive and they're really nice guys. It's just, it was hard to get them to understand why the ROI thing doesn't work and get them to understand how our business is different. But now that they understand that, it's like, so it'd be good for you to know what it does anyway, because it does like a lot of stuff. And there are some things that it was doing that we did really like I said, the win back, like the we've missed you, and it would automatically do that. We didn't have to do anything. It would just automatically detect when somebody hadn't bought something in 6 months and send a code. And some people were using them, you know, so it's like, it does do stuff that like I'd like to be able to do whether we do it with them or not with them. But that's why I kind of wanted you to assess sort of what your ideas are and what they do, and then reconcile which is the better option.
Totally. So win-back campaigns, all that kind of stuff, MailChimp, Klaviyo, you can do it. It's more complex. Spendly sounds like they're probably making it a little more user-friendly in terms of being able to just toggle kind of these different types of campaigns. They're making it a little more user-friendly, which it might be the right way to go for you guys, right? The customizing the confirmation orders, again, you can also do that kind of using MailChimp and Klaviyo, but it's a lot harder. It's just a lot harder. So knowing that this is kind of how you're doing the open pitches, that changes, I think, that changes the need a little bit. So let me talk to him.
Okay.
And let me get back to you on it. But if what you need is for each open pitch, like you need that very first email, that confirmation email to come through. And that's and for them to submit materials, and that's only going to be for open pitch, then you might have to use an app to do that. Let me talk with my dev team because I've got a couple other ideas, but I also don't want to make this harder or more complex than it needs to be for you guys. The point is to simplify this.
So here, I just want to show you the confirmation email. Like this was the original confirmation email that I made on Spently because back when I made it 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, it was like the free plan would do your order confirmation and for an unlimited number of orders, but it would only fire that email. On the paid plan, you could do the win back and all these other things. But I was like, I really just need this. But then they changed the thing. So when we upgraded, we can't downgrade again because now the free plan only allows you to fire like 100 emails a month, and we have 1,000 orders a month. So that's not going to work for us. So, but this is what it kind of needs to say. Like you're registered for the below, here's what it is. And it also has like the date and time, like the variant down here too. I needed that there. And then it says, if you booked one of these things, click here to submit your material. That takes you to material submission. Everything else, you'll get another email. But this is the ones that needs to be the auto-fired second email. Because we were doing all these second emails manually with the syllabus and blah, blah, blah. But for most people, when they're ordering, if they're ordering any of these, which are the majority of orders in the month, this is all that they need. And then they click to submit their material. And then the second email can fire that has all the further instructions.
Okay. Can you do two? All right. Two things. Can you introduce me through email to the Spently guy?
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, can you send me your login to Spently?
I think it's just our Shopify login, isn't it? It's just in our apps and in our Shopify login. Right?
It does not require another login to access it. Lots of the third-party apps will require a second login to get into them. So I can try that. And let me see.
That's all that I'll say. Boom, done. Okay, and then apps. I'm like just gonna see if it makes me log in.
Yeah, just see if it does it.
Spently.
They might not require it. Or you might already be logged in.
Hello.
I can also just try it too.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not what are you doing? Oh, here we go.
Here you go.
Now it's moving. Yeah, it didn't ask me for another one.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. I'll try to access it from the dashboard then. And if I have an issue, I'll let you know.
Cool. But it's probably the same username and password as the Shopify one if there is an additional one on there. We kind of use the same password for like everything because otherwise we would never remember what password.
Yeah, I've got my own password for your backend though, because I think you guys just invited me. Okay, that's fine. So let me play around with it. This might help. Clear things up a little bit. So I want to see how you guys have it configured to see if we'd be able to do it another way. Part of this is I want to streamline the apps you guys are using, so you're you don't have all this stuff kind of spread all over the place.
Totally.
But at the same time, I don't want to make it too complex by trying to do it all through like MailChimp, because then it's, if you guys have to change anything, then it's burdensome to change, and then that's mess, right? That becomes like a technical issue. So if we can do it with Spently, and I mean, you guys okay paying for Spently? Is the cost.
I'm
issue.
okay for paying for it if we're using all the features and we're not just using like the order confirmation, like, because if the other features are kind of, we don't need or don't use, like, for example, their shipping confirmation, obviously we don't use, like, but they're, like I said, the ones that we did sort of start to try out. And then like the suggesting products thing at the bottom of the order confirmation and other stuff, like right now we just put proofreading in it because that was the only thing that sort of applies to everybody. But if we went through and curated things for it to suggest and whatnot, like we'd be interested in that. I'm okay with paying for Spently if it's going to do what we want and it is actually generating additional revenue, which he told me that they're messing around in their back end to make it the interface so that on our end we can see not just the 7-day ROI, but these are the discount codes that were used. Here's how much money you made that was due to an additional act by Spently, like an additional sale that was made that we wouldn't have already made.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one for them to get. But I'm curious to see how they do that.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted you to sort of talk, because like I barely understand this shit. I understand like the surface of this shit. Like
yeah, I'm happy to talk to them. I'll talk to them. I'd be curious just to, because they're a newer team anyway. They're a newer app on the market, so I'd like to talk to them anyway, just to learn more about it.
Yeah, that's what I told him too. I was like, just to get Alan familiar with what you do, because you build all kinds of stores. Maybe there's another store that they're perfect for. It'd be good just for you to know what they do.
It'd be a good intro. So I'll talk to them and see. So let me do that first before I don't want to throw you guys down a rabbit hole here until we figure out whether or not they're going to be needed. I still think though it's a worthwhile exercise to go through, clean all those products. Let's get your current products right on a customized URL, and then to start setting up these automations with the library to start with, because I don't think Spently doesn't affect that, right?
No, I don't think that they do. Like, they might have ones that are specific to what product is ordered. That might also be something that they do, but I'd never messed with it until.
Yeah, I mean, my assumption is if somebody signs up, they purchase one of these webinars in the library, they're not getting a confirmation email that asks them to submit.
No, they get that same confirmation email that says, if you book blah, 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 for everything else, your information will be coming by email. And then I have to manually add them to the locksmith and manually send them the link.
So, okay, that makes way more sense. If right now you're literally sending everybody the exact same email confirmation.
Yep. And then
that's something you do not need Spently for.
Well, no, I just needed them to customize it so that the material submission link is in there.
Yeah, I mean, we could just add that via code in the confirmation theme.
Okay.
That's really straightforward to do.
I didn't understand all that liquid shit. Like I figured that out. I figured out how to customize stuff on other things, but I was like,
we could, it could be done. Like I could have one of my devs do it.
Okay, cool. Then that's
fine. So let's still make the intro. Let me still talk to them.
Yeah.
Let me still look at the app, because there might be stuff in there that it still makes sense for you guys to use. Maybe we sort of change the strategy, but we use them instead. But yeah, if the bottleneck here is just getting a custom confirmation email sent, ultimately I'm assuming Spently can segment by product. I don't know if you guys even want to mess with that yet, though. Right? I mean, are you fine keeping the confirmation email the same?
I'm fine with the confirmation email being the same for every order that's placed, as long as we can still automate a second email firing to take away the manual email that we have to send for classes, for webinars, because the vast majority of orders that come through are orders that need to go submit something on the material submission form. But there's a bunch of stuff where they don't need to submit material, but they just need a second email to fire with what they ordered, or with the syllabus, or with the link to the recording, or with the link to join the live webinar. That right now we're sending manually the second email.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That is way more clear. Okay. So
glad we cleared all that up.
That's good. It makes me. I'm feeling better. Okay. So the way that. So if we're okay keeping the confirmation email the same, what we need to do instead is we just need to get you guys a custom confirmation template.
Yeah, that was the only reason I used Spently to start with. I just needed a custom order
Easy.
confirmation. That was
That's easy. That's easy. Okay, we can do that. We can get you guys a custom email confirmation template that includes this link to the submission. That way, no matter what, everybody's getting that same template, and people that are buying the calls, right? They can go in and submit their stuff. And then for the ones that are not one-offs, right? Then you can then add in this automation on MailChimp that's going to fire that second email.
Mm-hmm.
And then that second email can include whatever that needs to include based upon the product.
Right.
So if it's, if it's one of these classes, it can be the syllabus, right? And the syllabus kind of links to the different calls or the Zooms.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the webinar, right, it can include the link to the webinar library, right? Which now you've got to have a password for, right? So people can just automatically.
Yeah, I'll just make all those passwords instead of email. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's a lot cleaner. I think that's the right process. So then going back to what we talked about originally, Jorge, the process this process that we laid out should still work.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. The difference now is just going to be, we just need to get you guys a custom confirmation email template that we can stick into Shopify. And then in addition to that, we just need to go through and clean up the product so that you're not looking through this like massive mayhem list of stuff when you try to add an automation to each of the products.
Right. And so the question that I had was so that, just to make sure because like on the flow chart, you had confirmation email from Shopify, which is automatic. Everybody's going to get that. And then we were going to add that little bit of text that says, something to the effect of,
like a second email will be coming or something like that.
Exactly.
Right.
Then we will still be moving forward with that, even for things that require the material submission form then, or are we keeping that material submission form request on that initial confirmation email if someone needs it?
The material submission link should be on every confirmation email that is sent out, regardless of what they ordered, just so that they always have that link whenever they're looking for it anyway. But for the things that it's not relevant to, that a second email should then automatically fire with what is relevant.
That's what is relevant.
Right.
That's kind of my ideal for how it would work.
Yeah, so I'll update that flow chart. But the flow chart where it says, confirmation email fires, and I talked about how to update that confirmation email, don't worry about that right now. Because I'll have our team, let me talk to my dev and side team, and we'll come up with kind of how to do this. But what we're going to do is we're basically going to just cut off Bentley, and instead of having you going in and updating that code with just a line, we're just going to plop in our own template.
Customize.
So
okay.
Yeah. So don't even worry about that piece. And what we'll do is we'll kind of mock something up, and we can all talk about the language and make sure it matches. And during we can talk about where we want that submission link. So we can basically just recreate that email. Actually, you know what? Go ahead and forward me that one you were just looking at, so I have that, so I can see what it looks like in browser. I'll also look at Bentley too, and we can just recreate it and code it up.
Okay. I'm like forwarding for example, here's a perfect example, because a writer forwarded me her confirmation email and was like, hey, what am I supposed to do? Where do I send Drew my script? Because she didn't book an open pitch session. So she goes to the material submission and it's not there. What she booked was a class. And so what needs to happen is the second email to fire to say, here's your syllabus, here's his email address, here's where you send your script for the class.
Yeah, so we should probably restructure this confirmation email to be a little more clear, kind of like, if you did this, blank, if you did this, blank.
Right.
But that's fine. Okay. All right. We're making some progress here. Okay.
Actually, here, I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Yeah.
This may not be exactly, I can't find the exact screen that I was on, but when I was doing this, however long ago that was. Share
Also,
screen.
are we recording this yet? No.
Now let's get it recorded.
Hey, it's Ryan too. Sorry,
All
Ryan
right.
and Shep just came over.
So, all right, so we're here, follow the prompts to get here. Now, the conditions, Shopify customers, the only thing is when I refresh account, it should be zero, correct, and that's because this